next up, with the crossroads of innovation, I would like to welcome to the stage Daniel Seal, co-founder and CEO of Unbound, and his panelists Sandeya Devanathan, country head of Singapore for Facebook, and Angeline Poe, Assistant Chief Executive for Content and Innovation at the IMDI. Thank you.
Please, I'm on. Thank you. Let's take seats. I'd like to say this is one of my favorite panels as it's really addressing the topics that we're talking about, where we have a former investment banker now running a very large business we all may have heard of, Facebook, and Angeline has been involved in the government and across many other sectors. So we're looking at really crossroads of innovation and how corporates, government, startups come together. So, Angie, we're here in Singapore, and obviously with the new merging of two government agencies, how are you seeing the government is driving the innovation within the community?
Well, first, I think we're living the startup experience, being a 6-month-old organization. So going through a lot of the growing pains of being a startup as well, even though we're a merger of two pre-existing organizations, so that's fun. I think that the government plays a role in creating a very conducive environment for businesses in general, and particularly seeing how the startup scene has really taken off in Singapore, and you can see a microcosm of that right outside of this hall. We're taking a lot of care to ensure that the environment we put in place or continue to build the talent that we're working with the institutions of higher learning to train, the infrastructure that we're building, the rules that we put in place will all be conducive for continuing with this growth of the startup movement in Singapore.
That's great. Sanjay, we spoke before, we were saying, obviously, you've got quite an interesting background, where how are you seeing from yourself, who started in the financial services world, to now joining probably one of the most fast-growing, dynamic companies around, and also, how has that been? And maybe share with us a little bit of how you've seen.
Yeah, so I've been now with Facebook for 1 year and 5 months, and it's been, like you explained, huge difference. I spent 16 years in banking, in retail banking across the globe, and now I'm with Facebook. I think a couple of things stood out for me. When I joined banking, I joined Citi in India, and it was in the throes of fast growth, a liberalizing economy, and we innovated constantly as a company back then. And I think Facebook is pretty much positioned to do the same thing now. I think what stands apart for me is culture. Culture is very open, transparent, and there are very few levels of decision-making. So it's a pretty open, fast-moving company, and that, to me, is a huge difference. The second thing is, I think Facebook always the eye is on consumer trends and what's the next big change that's going to happen. And we sort of pivot as a company towards that. And mobile, as we know, is a huge game changer, and we're now a completely mobile-first company. So that's been the interesting big shift that I've seen.
And we spoke about this a little bit earlier. Obviously, and you just mentioned how you've building a startup within the government, from having a new name, creating a logo, and now having to run. How have you seen in Facebook? Because obviously the company's had a meteoric growth in the past 15 years or so, and has that, how do you continue to innovate? Because ultimately you've now processes, procedures, and how do you keep that balance between the creativity to, I don't want to use the word bureaucracy, but the processes?
Okay, so for me, Facebook is still a small company. When I worked at Citi, we were 300,000 people. Stanchart was 80,000 people, and now Facebook is 15 and growing hugely. But a lot of people on my team have been in the company for 8 years or longer, and these see a very different company, a company that is growing exponentially, and we have processes in place now, right? I think how we stay core to the spirit of the company is, I want to go back to this, which is we're heavily focused on impact. What's the impact that we're all making, and we're all connected to the mission, which is to make the world more open and connected. So everybody in the company is aligned on one vision, and everyone focuses on impact. The last bit, which we do even today, as we're a large company, Zuck and Cheryl get on town halls every week, and no questions are off limits. So that lets the company actually question. Everyone in the company has a voice, and they're unafraid to use it. So for example, my performance reviews are posted on Facebook. We share, team scores. We share our visions. So each one of us shares our personal and work vision for the year. We do that as a smaller team, but it's equally true for larger teams as well. So I think that makes for, if the company is going in the wrong direction, I think you catch it pretty quickly. At least that's the sense I get.
And Angie, we were talking about how do you see that the government should empower a creative workforce? Because ultimately we're seeing at the moment that you are driving attraction of companies. It's really two things. What are you doing to drive more companies, whether it's startups, large corporates, whatever, coming to Singapore, and also enabling the workforce to be here to be able to, to keep up?
I think the starting point is that Singapore has to remain relevant to the larger conversation on the global stage and in the region. Without that relevance, I don't think we would be what we are today in terms of being a hub for business, finance, talent, and innovation. So starting with that, I think it's about how do we continue to remain relevant. And this year, it's only May now, but the first 5 months of this year for the government has been very focused on looking ahead, looking 10, 20 years ahead, and the digital transformation that needs to happen across government, across the economy, across society, and really it's a system-wide effort to make that transformation. As the IMDA, we're working with a lot of our partner government agencies who are managing different industry sectors to look at what the path is ahead. Just for our own industries, for example, in the media sector, we're looking at as digital technologies impact media, what are the new skill sets, what are the new capabilities that the media companies need to be equipped with to thrive and to continue to do the amazing things that they do, telling the great stories that they do on the world stage, right? So it's about creating that relevance and giving the industry and the talent here the tools to actually continue to be successful. So in the past, I think people would think of government support as being, how do I apply for a grant, to do a particular project? But I think we're looking beyond that now, and it's really about connecting dots between innovators, storytellers, creators across different parts of the economy. It's about creating space that could bring these people together to collaborate and innovate. And I think you heard maybe one or two speakers this morning talk about a physical facility called Pixel Labs and Pixel Studios. That's something that IMDA has put together as a shared facility for industry across tech and content and beyond, really, to come together to discover each other and really to drive new innovation.
Not to shamelessly promote our next session in the afternoon, where both Facebook and IMDA are involved, we've created this whole idea of convergence of the whole media and storytelling, and how from really Facebook, because you guys really are, this, I would call pioneers of, how now the mobile, the storytelling, look, you kind of put every streaming company now out of business because you've got Facebook Live, you've got this whole idea. How are you seeing this whole industry coming together with, and keeping the content, which ultimately is king in every company, being able to be connected with the consumer?
I think the first thing is we're increasingly across all markets. People keep talking about the world's going mobile. I think that's no longer true. The world's gone mobile. And we say this time and again because I feel like people still miss out on the scale and pace of change that's happening with mobile. And mobile's not just a technology, it's consumer behavior. It's where people are spending their time, it's where they're discovering brands, it's where they're making decisions. That means there are implications. There are implications for business models. Airbnb just surpassed a whole bunch of hotel chains in terms of valuation. Tesla passed GM, right? And so you see that all the time, so I won't belabor that. But I think the second part of that is just around how do you create for a mobile world? So we see that coming together. Attention spans on newsfeed are just 1.7 seconds. So how do you quickly capture attention and stay relevant? Two, we see young upstarts and SMBs building whole business models around mobile. You go to Vietnam, you see in Singapore as well, there's this consultant from Bain who quit his job and started a mobile-first company and doing phenomenally well just using the platform. Because Facebook's basically democratized access to that information, at least what we see on our platform. I think you see that on other mobile platforms as well. So the second part is just creating a business model and creating content for mobile. The last bit where we see convergence coming together is really around measurement and targeting, and who do you go after and how do you measure ROI and success. I think increasingly as digital and mobile becomes more dominant, people need to start thinking of it as a business driver. So innovation is not just product innovation or service innovation, but also distribution innovation, which means if you have a traditional company, you don't have one person that does digital, your whole company sort of aligns to mobile as well. So that's how I see some companies are ahead, some are not.
And you also work with your role in Facebook also is looking at how the brands are engaging more. How are you seeing, because I think one of the key, we said this event's all about where Asian innovation meets the world. I know there's other panels talking more on the fragmented market, but are you seeing here that you are doing a lot of your brands for the whole region based from Singapore, like where you connect with the brands? How's that working?
Interesting, because I see Singapore as the little red dot, which is the gateway to ASEAN, and we see that on our platform every day. So if you look at some of the big e-com majors like Lazada, Shopee, Garena, right, all of them are headquartered out of here, but growing rapidly across ASEAN. What I'm also seeing is interesting models where the digital marketing part, which powers most of these mobile-first companies, are also for APAC, are being headquartered out of Singapore. So I feel like there's a real opportunity to build brands for ASEAN, for APAC, out of Singapore. In fact, I've almost become a headhunter now because people are always asking me tell me good people I can hire. And that's something Singapore sees is a big opportunity for Singapore.
And Angie, you obviously were part of the MDA, the media development side, and then move over. How are you finding that transition? Because obviously you've come from the storytelling, content side to now this link with obviously kind of two regulating agencies and promotional agencies coming together. How are you seeing, because you've seen it from the other side of the table, and because one of the things that I'm interested in, because ultimately is from the Facebook side, I'd say was from the tech side that's now ultimately the whole content owners. And what initiatives is the government driving from the content creation side rather than also from the technology side?
Well, first of all, the merger, I think, when the decision was finally made, I think everybody kind of said, oh, this is a long time coming, right? Just picking the right time to close the deal, because we've been talking about this for a while. But I mean, in terms of how we look at technology, how the content companies and content talent in this sector look at technology, it's kind of transparent. I mean, that's the great thing about technology today. It's not this machine that you have to look at and interface with. It's just transparent, and it's pervasive, right? I mean, this thing about ubiquitous computing and pervasive computing has been there for like a decade, but it's finally a reality. I mean, it's seamless in terms of when we talk to filmmakers about making a film. In fact, the term filmmaker is a misnomer because you're not shooting on film. Very rarely do you shoot on film anymore. It's all in digital, right? And that's technology impacting content. It's also now how you tell stories in terms of distribution, right? Innovating in terms of your distribution channels and how you tell a story, whether it's a 90-minute feature-length film like Beauty and the Beast, which Rob talked about earlier, or it's a 30-second Facebook video, right? You could tell the same story, but the audience is different, the expectations are different. So knowing the audience, knowing what they're expecting to see, or to experience, depending on whether they're in a cinema or in front of a big screen at home or looking at something on the little screen, how you deliver that same message needs to be deferred, right? And needs to be different. And that's sort of new capabilities that filmmakers and storytellers in the content sector need to grapple with, be they traditional kind of media professionals or marketing executives.
And we're seeing now, that there's these new, well, it's not so new, fermented. There's a lot more discussions now on AI, machine learning, robotics. Is this I'm just from our side understanding, is this something that you think we're a little bit, really it's a question of both of you, that we are there with, or we're just, because I look at some of the video ads years ago, everyone was talking, it took a while, and now we could make a video ad in 2 minutes, post it, and have it on. Are you seeing that this AI adoption and machine learning is really the moment, or it's like I noticed in how slide you have your different reports 10 years ahead? Is this going to be something if we're sitting here in 10 years, or you think this is really where we're going? I'll start with you.
So Facebook is a company, I think last year during F8, Zuck talked about our 10-year vision as a company, and we're doubling down on both AI and VR in terms of what we see as a big emerging consumer trend. We see it as, so we bought Oculus, and we just hired Hugo Barra as well as the VP of VR. So I think where investments are concerned, we're quite focused on AI and VR. Do we see it as immediately sort of taking off in the same way that video or live or avatars and effects are taking off on Facebook? I think the answer is no. But will it happen? Yes, that's one. The second thing is we just hired Regina Dugan from, she used to work at ARPANET. She now runs Building 8 for Facebook. Again, that's creating technologies that didn't exist before. So again, some amount of work that we're doing there is also around AI and VR. So we absolutely think that'll become mainstream sooner now.
And yourself, obviously you mentioned a lot of your initiatives you're doing with accreditation, with others. Are you seeing is it like the rise?
Yeah, no, we're a big believer in AI, and it's AI paired with big data. I mean, that's where, and deep machine learning, right? That's where it gets really, really interesting for us. Well, I don't know. I mean, my CEO had this slide from 1986, yes, the first national computerization plan in Singapore, all the way to the current one. Maybe the next one will be written with AI. Not by AI, but hopefully aided by AI. It makes our life a little bit easier. And that's, I think, what the beauty of AI brings. It's about increasing effectiveness and efficiency to help us do our job better. And how is that applied across different sectors? And that's where we're seeing a lot of innovation coming up from different parts of just the enterprise ecosystem in Singapore.
And we've got a few minutes left. I really want to wrap up with just, we've heard this phrase, smart nation, smart city's been around for a while. Singapore is really one of the few smart nations around. But really, what would I say, to ask you both a question, what would you say smart nation means to you? And ultimately, everyone at the moment is as you mentioned, we're all mobile, we're all thinking, in your mind, Sanjay, what do you see as smart nation? And obviously, as you're running a company, your side, do you think that it's something that also links to what you're trying to do with inside Facebook, or this whole keeping people together?
So I talked about the world going mobile and that being this huge trend. And I think Zuck also released this note earlier this year around how we think about communities and civic engagement. I'd encourage everyone to read it. It's a great note. There he talks about how, as a company, our mission's been to connect friends and family. And in the our next focus will be around building social infrastructure for connecting communities. And I think it comes down to civic engagement, keeping people safe and increasing inclusion for communities. And there, not to make a plug for the Singapore government, but we do a lot of work together with Singapore. So when I think about Smart Nation there, some of the work that we've done with the Singapore government is fantastic. Workplace, Singapore government was the first to adopt across the globe in terms of using Facebook Workplace to communicate with each other at work. It just cuts down decision-making time, makes things a lot more transparent. I use that at work now, and I can see the difference. So that's one. The second thing is SG launched chatbots. They were the first, again, to engage with citizens in a different way from before. PM Lee has 1.16 million followers on Facebook, remains very active. So when you think about civic engagement as a smart nation, I think Singapore is actually taking quite a few steps there. Smart Nation could also be around how we engage with communities around keeping them safe, safety checks. 500 times we've activated Facebook safety checks, and 1 billion people have marked themselves safe. So that's another thing where we actively partner with governments around big crisis issues where you could have people on a dominant if they're on Facebook actually checking themselves as safe. Amber alerts, we've launched them in Malaysia where you can find missing children. That's again Smart Nation initiatives that we've done with the government. A little more on the engineering side, we've actually, because we run large data centers which are very efficient, we've done some work with the Singapore government to also see where we could share best practices there. So I think there's been everything from back-end to civic engagement. We've done a fair amount of work, and I think Singapore government to us stands out as somebody that's always willing to experiment and try new ways of engaging with citizens.
Great. And Angie, yourself as one of the key organizations driving us, what does this mean to building a smart nation, and also to yourself as a citizen as well as an architect?
Well, first, I need to thank Sandhya for such a glowing testimony about the Singapore government. I must say that, having been using Workplace for a couple of months now, I don't know whether it's good or it's disturbing that I get more notifications on Workplace than I do on my regular Facebook. Maybe it's more a statement about my social network than anything else. So, that's been a great experience. A smart nation, to me, is one that empowers possibilities, right, for government, for people, for companies. And it goes beyond the technology, it goes beyond the infrastructure. Those are the basic building blocks. But it's really about helping people in government, people in just Singaporeans, and companies understand how to use these tools and these building blocks to really fulfill their potential and to unleash, what's possible in their minds in terms of, either their personal development and careers. How do you use technology to do that? How do you take your business idea and go from, your bedroom into the boardroom and really take over the world? And that is, to me, what a Smart Nation is about. So what we've been doing in the past couple of years has been to ensure that the infrastructure is there. We're investing heavily in training and talent. So we've got the Tech Skills Accelerator. Since as of February this year, we have 100,000 people that have undergone training with TESA. And just last month, we announced a partnership with Google, where we're doing a Squared Online. This is the third partnership I think we've done with them in the same vein, but this time it's very focused on SME business leaders and empowering them to really seize the opportunity of the digital economy by helping them understand how to do things like digital marketing and building an online presence to propel their businesses ahead. So, to me, that's Smart Nation, again, is one that really empowers possibilities for people living and working in Singapore.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, our time's up. Please go a round of applause to my two panelists. It was very good. Thank you. Naomi, over to you.
Thank you very much to Daniel, Sandhya, and Angeline.